Sean hold on. Gotta do it again. Welcome back into that Sean podcast. If you guys don't know, I messed up the first time and I hit the mic, and yeah, that was just bad, so we did an extra take. But I hold true to my brand. I let you guys know I screwed up. Anyways, speaking of a screw up, me and the Cat Daddy in this ridiculous fantasy league. Apparently it's called Battle of the Pods or some nonsense, and it's over like multiple like countries. And let's just say we've been drafting. Somehow the draft started without telling us that it was starting, and we've been drafting for the past 3 days. And it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a long draft. We're in the third. We're not even in the third round.
Now we're at the end of the second. I think the reason they wanted to get started early because they knew
it was going to take this long.
Different countries and time zones that it could take a while because it's not your standard. Let's get everybody together at a certain time because what's going to be? I mean, we have an hour time zone difference just between you and I, and then there's 6-7 hours to Europe. So there's a big variance there, and getting everybody together would be very challenging. So makes sense why they're doing it so early. Even though, you and I discussed, we don't like doing ours until September, even end of August. That way we have more news. Speaking of news, because, should we tell the people who we picked in our drafts?
Not yet.
Not yet? We're going to hold on to that?
We're going to hold on to those nuggets.
All right. Because when it came our turn to pick, at least for second rounds, one of the players I was interested in was Mike Evans.
And I was not.
And it's a really good thing that we did not go Mike Evans because today we found out some news and activity out of Tampa Bay. Actually, we found out over the past couple of days. I mean, a couple days ago, Buccaneers signed veteran tight end Kyle Rudolph to a 1-year deal. Good move for Tampa Bay. Rate's not that overly impressive. Neither K. Dotton or O'Keefe are ready to start yet. So Rudolph can play in 2 tight end sets. He can serve as a red zone target. I mean, Tom Brady has already told Kyle Rudolph that he's not going to be the first read because Tom Brady's a Michigan man and Kyle Rudolph went to Notre Dame. So he's not the number 1 target. But he's another option for Brady. I wouldn't expect much out of Kyle Rudolph for fantasy purposes.
You also find out more news.
It's hard to trust those tight ends right now. Earlier today, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are signing veteran wide receiver Julio Jones to a 1-year deal, but I haven't seen the figures yet. Good landing spot for Jones, who's going to be able to compete for those wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 duties until Chris Godwin fully returns, which is the next piece of good news that we have for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because if you're a Tampa Bay fan, training camp has started, and Chris Godwin, who underwent knee surgery at the beginning of January for a torn ACL, is avoiding the active PUP list to start training camp. Proceed with caution, but that's a really good sign for Godwin. So I think all of that is a slight downgrade for Mike Evans because I was anticipating Chris Godwin to miss some time. It's definitely bad news for Russell Gage because now he's going to have to fight Julio Jones and Chris Godwin a little bit sooner. And good news for Godwin.
And Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, good news for Kyle Rudolph. There's still minimal value there. He's going to be tight ends or touchdown dependent tight end with questionable volume. But all of this is excellent news for Tom Brady because you're thinking Gronk left, Antonio Brown's out. You got all these targets that are missing, and boom, they just fill that roster back up. Reload.
Any other news you have for the people?
Kyler Murray finally got what he wanted. A long-term extension before training camp, tying him to the Arizona Cardinals for 5 additional seasons. So it's a 5-year, $230.5 million extension. And that's going to put him at just ahead of Deshaun Watson by $100,000 per year in terms of annual average value.
Both those contracts I do not like.
I know. I would not have been ready to give Kyler this contract before the season started. Definitely not Deshaun. But I guess this is the way the league works. If you have a quarterback who has potential, you have to pay them, and you have to pay them early. I'm just glad that Arizona didn't give him a fully guaranteed deal. So it makes me somewhat happy that Deshaun Watson is the only person with a guaranteed deal right now.
Now Lamar Jackson's like...
I know. But when you look at it, right before we get to Jackson, with Watson and Murray both receiving $46 million a year, it really starts to make the deals for Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen look really good.
And Dak Prescott.
It even makes the Aaron Rodgers deal look good.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lamar Jackson, he's going to be getting between $46 and $50 million. I'm very curious to see how much of that's going to be guaranteed. But back to Murray real quick. An interesting note, and I don't know if this is included in all contracts, and it was just highlighted for Murray, or if it's something that's specific to Murray. But it seems like part of his contract includes that he is required to complete 4 hours of independent study each week before a game. Now, if this is standard language in contracts for players,
no,
I get it.
It's not.
I get it. You want me to do study. But if they are specifically putting this in Kyler Murray's contract because of what they've seen from him already, absolutely. You're giving this man $46 million a year and he can't do the off-field stuff for you.
So he's just Michael Vick in it.
JaMarcus Russell.
No. You know that's what Michael Vick used to do. Michael Vick said till he went to Philadelphia, he never watched tape. He just showed up and played.
Yeah, and when you're giving that amount of money to a player who's expected to be a leader of the team, the face of the franchise, I expect more.
Of course.
The expectation is there. I had reservations. I mean, we mentioned this before about giving a huge contract like that to somebody who hadn't even led his team to a playoff victory or
they did
finish a playoff game. They got the berth. They were losing quite a bit, and then Kyler Murray refused to go back in for the final couple of minutes.
So here's the thing. They weren't people. All right, I'm sorry being a host, but people knocked Dak for Dak's been in what 4 or 5 playoff games. There's a Green Bay one where Aaron Rodgers had to have the refs basically ignore holding play and do miracles, and have Mason Crosby pull miracles out to win that game. They also beat Seattle. Then they almost led a comeback against the Rams one year.
He has 4 career playoff games.
And then there's one against San Francisco, which, let's be honest, yes, they were down and out, but it was a lot closer at the end than they scared the Niners a little bit at the end there. So all I'm saying is people poo-pooed on Dak's deal and he got $40 million. They got Kyler, we're celebrating $46 million for a guy who's done what?
Complained on social media through his agent.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to some other news.
All right. Now, if we want some good news from Arizona Cardinals, we have... You know, I hate when the good news gets swept all under the rug, like good, positive news. Last week on Twitter, a J.J. Watt fan was selling her J.J. Watt shoes and her J.J. Watt Texans jersey so she could raise some money for her grandfather's funeral. J.J. Watt sees this and he's like, don't sell your shoes and jersey. We'll help with the funeral. I'm sorry for your loss.
Because J.J. Watt's the man.
And it drives me crazy because you heard about this Zach Wilson business, right? Where he gets called out for sleeping with one of his mom's friends. The news goes viral. Everybody's talking about it. But then you have J.J. Watt. And a kind and a generous act goes relatively unnoticed.
Some people say that Zach Wilson thing might have been a kind and generous act.
But what's wrong with this picture? Right? We have good positive news, but we don't want to celebrate that.
Here's the thing. We're not going to get into that because that's not us. But at the same time, it's just the way of the world. First part of this. Let's address the Zach Wilson thing. Why is this news? Why do I care? He is there. Is he of age? Is he an adult? So if he's an adult, that's between him, his mom, and his mom's friend. That's it. The rest of y'all can kick rocks. The JJ Watt thing, y'all should come in and just take note, because this is how a human being should act. Enough said. Let's get back to some football. Are we done with news and jumping into fantasy, or we got any more?
Let's see. We have no news on Deshaun Watson. We have no news on Alvin Kamara, but training camp is here, and Aaron Rodgers showed up looking like Nicolas Cage's character from Con Air, Cameron Poe.
He looked like any freaking farmer you could find. Everybody said Con Air. Get the F out of here. We reaching.
No, it is pretty similar. If I don't know if you've seen the picture. I'll send you the picture.
I've seen the picture.
You don't think they look similar? Oh, come on.
Call me the fun police.
All right, fun police. We're in training camp. People at home. I'm going to save this for my words of wisdom. Let's get to the running back stuff.
All right. So, first topic. We're doing rookies, right?
Yes, we are doing running backs this week. We're going through the 5 Bs, the brand news, the breakouts, the bounce backs, the busts, and the buyer bewares. So we got the brand news. We got the rookies first. You want to start? You want me to start?
I'm going to start because I'm going to take my boy first. You disrespected him all off season, so I got to go first. Breece Hall for those New York Jets. It's going to have every opportunity in the world to showcase what he's got.
That's all you got.
That's all I'm giving is Breece Hall.
Right.
Hey, just don't be surprised if he comes on. He's a top 10 running back.
Breece Hall is also somebody I had on the list to talk about for brand news, because Breece Hall has the easiest path and the biggest potential workload of all the rookie running backs.
I actually don't think he has the easiest path, but go ahead.
Well, he's RB1 right away. How does it get easier?
I got a different guy that I think has an easier path.
He's RB1. He's the only RB1 in this class on his team.
On paper.
All right. Anyways, Breece Hall, the only RB1 on paper in this class. He is probably one of, if you're in a 15-round draft, probably one of the only rookie running backs that's going to get selected. And I need people to stop calling Breece Hall a breakout player. He's a rookie. Stop. Please stop. He's not a breakout player. He's a rookie.
All
right. At a minimum, he should get carries on first down, second down. While he does have the pass catching ability, I think a lot of that's going to be going Michael Carter's way, at least this season. But the upside is there for Hall. If something happens to Carter, Breece Hall has a clear 3-down role. All right. So I will go to another one that I have, and it is going to be Ken, not Kenneth, Walker from Seattle. There is competition in the Seattle backfield. Chris Carson's neck injury has caused him to retire, so he is out of action. Wish him speedy recovery from that neck injury. Hope everything improves for him. But for Walker, his main competition comes in the form of Rashad Penny. And if we remember last year, Rashad Penny was a league-winning running back down the stretch. Now, good news for Walker is that Penny has a history with injuries himself, and the Seattle Seahawks have only signed him to a one-year deal, so there's no commitment to Rashad Penny. Walker, on the other hand, the Seattle Seahawks selected him in the second round, which I think was 5 spots after Breece Hall, so they didn't want to wait very long. And of all the Seattle running backs, I think Walker has more talent and ability than all of them, than any of them. But if Pete Carroll continues to commit to Rashad Penny in early downs, it's going to be a little bit harder for Ken Walker to find the field. Best case scenario, Walker sees some early action, outshines Penny, earns a starting job, keeps it early in the season. Worst case scenario, Pete Carroll just uses his running back committee and split carries between Walker and Penny, hurting the fantasy value of everybody involved.
Doesn't matter if they're split. They're going to have to really, what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to be running a lot. I'm talking 350 to 400 carries because they have no quarterback. So those running backs are going to get a lot of carries, possibly a lot of yards.
I know, but how many carries are you going to have when you're trailing by 3 scores in the second quarter?
They'll be catching balls too because
throwing.
All right. My next guy. This is my guy who I believe has the clearest path to be successful as a rookie, and it's going to sound weird.
Before or after Hall?
Before Hall. And this is going to sound weird because, yes, it should be Breece Hall. It should be. But this player was drafted fairly high to a team that hates their running backs that they have currently. How do I know they hate their running backs they have currently? Because they've been trying to replace the running back, at least the main one they have currently, for multiple years. I think they just realized where I was going with this. So yes, the guy I'm going with is James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry, the Buffalo Bills hate Devin Singletary. They've been trying to replace him for years. James Cook is going to get this starting role sooner than later, and he is going to run with it. Also, the Buffalo Bills are a better offense, so he is actually going to, that's where his chances for success are greater.
I see where you're going. For me,
I know.
For this season, fantasy purposes, I grouped James Cook and Rachaad White in a similar category where they could find themselves in the rotation due to the pass catching skills.
It's going to be less. I'm just saying. The Buffalo Bills hate Devin Singletary for whatever reason.
I mean, just selecting James Cook alone put him ahead of Zach Moss. I mean, they really hate Zach Moss. They even brought in Matt Breida last year.
Because they hate Devin Singletary.
Huh. But Devin Singletary toward the end of the season was, I mean, for the final couple of weeks, he was like RB2. He was up there with Penny as far as production.
The year before they selected Zach Moss, he was amazing. He was amazing that year. I had him on my fantasy team, and they go and select Zach Moss. And at the beginning of that year, they're like, Zach Moss, you can have all these carries. Devin Singletary, take a seat in the back.
If something happens to Devin Singletary or Leonard Fournette, I could definitely see a bigger role for James Cook and Rachaad White. Another running back I have who, when the season starts, he's probably not going to be drafted in your smaller leagues, right? If it's not a deep league, he may not be drafted, but he may have some value as the season progresses because of his role. And that's going to be Brian Robinson from the Washington football team.
I agree.
The rookie has a lot of experience, but not a lot of tread on the tires. And it sounds like he is expected to have the short yardage and those very valuable goal line carries available to him, which will make him a good rookie handcuff. Now, we know that the passing down work is going to go to J.D. McKissic. Early running down is going to go to Antonio Gibson. But the value is where that TD vulture lives, and that's a role that Brian Robinson can play. Now, if something happens to Antonio Gibson, I think that the football team would rather give the ball to Brian Robinson than they would J.D. McKissic for early down work. So.
All right, so do you have any more rookies? Because this could be a great transition for me.
Let's not spoil a good transition. Here we go.
So I'm going to transition to guys that I have who are going to be busts. And we've already talked to several of their players that you should get as handcuffs for now who are rookies. The top guy on my list is Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson had how many fumbles last year? I think it was 6. 6! Good God, my guy. I'm sorry, Brian Robinson has an inside path to just Antonio Gibson. I could see it. One fumble, boom, bench time. So Brian Robinson is a great guy to have because I see Antonio Gibson having a very short leash. Let me get to a couple of the other guys out just because we've already talked about their alternatives. Devin Singletary is also another one of my busts because I think the Buffalo Bills hate him and they'd rather go with the athletic upside of James Cook. James Cook is faster, James Cook is more agile, so he will give some more juice to that offense, even though Devin Singletary seemingly just runs really nice. He's kind of a Frank Gore-esque type runner. Then the other guy I have is Rashad Penny. I get it, Rashad Penny went wild last year. Well, guess what? There's no Russell Wilson on this team, my guy. So, there's a more dynamic runner on your same team as a rookie. There's no Russell Wilson. You're going to be splitting carries, and eventually this coaching staff is going to figure out which runner gives them a better chance to win games. And unfortunately, coaching staffs can't play to tank for a quarterback unless you're in Miami, from what I hear. No, what they have to do is they have to win games to keep their jobs. So, you will be out and Walker would be in. Let's go into one of your busts.
All right. So of those three, I had Antonio Gibson really high on my bust list. Statistically, the past 2 seasons have looked good for him. He's totaled nearly 2,400 yards. He's had 21 total touchdowns. He's even added in 78 receptions, giving a little PPR boost. And then you have Ron Rivera talking him up. Like, he's going to get similar usage to Christian McCaffrey, drawing that comparison, building the hype for all of us fantasy owners. 3 down back, like, what's not to love? And I'm glad you asked, because for starters, fumbles. But even excluding fumbles, you have the recent history of lower body injuries. And for me, that's slightly concerning. He played through most of last season with a stress fracture in his shin. Suffered smaller injuries like calf injury early in the season, hip injury, toe injury late in the season. Now, in his defense, the only game that he missed last season was due to COVID, so none of them were injury related. But considering that the running backs already have a pretty short shelf life in the NFL, I'm not liking the string of recent injuries. Then you have Washington's off-season activity. They bring back J.D. McKissic when he already agreed to a deal with Buffalo. Now, McKissic isn't going to steal many of the carries, but I do expect him to steal the targets and receptions. Then we're talking about Brian Robinson taking the short yardage, goal line work. I don't see how Antonio Gibson is going to repeat as a top 10 running back for fantasy purposes. We're not. Another one of my bust candidates, Josh Jacobs with the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a talented running back, but Las Vegas didn't pick up his options, so that's not giving a lot of confidence and enthusiasm there. They drafted 2 running backs in this year's draft when they only had a couple of picks, and you still have Kenyon Drake on your roster. Now, removing those factors, when you look at the head coach, Josh McDaniels, during his time as the Denver Broncos head coach, 2009-2010, Josh McDaniels did not have a 1,000-yard rusher.
And then New England?
I get it. 2 years is a small sample size, and
New
he
England?
didn't even make it through his second season. But exactly, New England. Now, when you look at Josh McDaniels, even going back to Denver, he did not have a running back who exceeded an average of 60 yards per game. The leading rusher was commanding 2/3 of the carries, but couldn't get above 60 yards on average. And if Josh McDaniels tries to employ the Belichick method at running back, where it's just ride the hot hand and maybe it's a different running back each week,
Oh,
Josh Jacobs.
didn't
Not
the
looking
Raiders
good, buddy.
sign another running back too, if I'm not mistaken?
For Josh Jacobs' purposes, I hope not.
I'm pretty sure they did sign someone else. Just give me a moment.
All right. Well, while you're looking that up, I'm going to go to...
Oh, no, it wasn't them. It wasn't them.
No.
Never mind. I'm going to go on to one of my potential busts, to your dismay. And you mentioned injury history earlier. Well, there's a guy who could have a clear path to being amazing this year, but he's got injury history. And well, we'll see. But Cam Akers, I just don't believe in him because of the injury history. I'm sorry. He has all the talent in the world, and he seemingly has the faith of Sean McVay. But the injury history, my guy, the injury history. How many games has he played total in a 3-year career?
That's fair. All right, enough with the bad news. Let's move on
Bounce
to... do you want to go breakouts first?
All right, we can go break.
Or do you want to say breakouts?
I'd say it's up to you. I'll let you pick this one.
All right, let's go breakouts, because I want to talk about my number one guy.
All right, if it's not mine, go ahead.
Okay, my number one breakout is Algiers Jamil William Dillon Jr.,
No, definitely not mine. I don't know
Or-
who the hell that is.
better known as A.J. Dillon, or the Quad Father, or Quadzilla, depending on how well you know him. Yes, Aaron Jones is still the 1A running back in Green Bay, but I thought the Packers did an excellent job of incorporating both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon into the fold last season. Aaron Jones saw a similar role in the passing game, but he saw a reduced role when it came to the running game. His rushing yards dropped from 1,100 down to about 800 because Dillon was playing a much larger role in the offense. You know, Dillon last year put up 800 yards on the ground, 300 yards through the air. Now, while the offense adjusts to life without Devontae Adams, I can see the Packers relying on their run game and their defense to put away teams. That means their running back tandem is expected to get a lot of work, and it wouldn't be surprising to see Aaron Jones leading the team in receiving while reducing his rushing attempts, which allows A.J. Dillon to be the main beneficiary of those extra carries, and especially those valuable ones that are close to the goal line. Now, I can definitely see both of these guys. I can see Aaron Jones, I can see A.J. Dillon, each exceeding 1,100 total yards, 8 total touchdowns. I just think that for Aaron Jones, the stats are going to come more through the air, and for A.J. Dillon, those stats are going to come on the grounds. Dillon's breakout is coming. Be prepared.
All right.
Who do you got?
Travis Etienne.
I knew you
of
would.
the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Knew it.
It's kind of a bounce back also because he never got the chance to play. I can just see Doug Peterson salivating here with the speed, with the playmaking ability. This guy is going to be a home run threat waiting to happen, especially him working on his hands from what I've heard. I think by the end of the year, he's going to be the lead back in Jacksonville, showing the talent that he has, and he's going to have a big season.
Now, did you hear the news that James Robinson was not put on the PUP list to start training camp?
I did not hear that news. That news does not affect my opinion. James Robinson, I thought, was automatically still going to be the top running back initially, but I think Travis Etienne's talent will overwhelm.
I also had Etienne on my list. He was also on my breakout list. It's a good situation for him to be in. First of all, Urban Meyer is gone. Okay.
Yes.
Second, his recovery from last season's Liz Frank injury has gone very well. Third, James Robinson suffered his Achilles injury toward the end of the season. He's not going to be on the PUP list, so he will be practicing, but I still think it's going to take time for him to get up to speed. So he's going to have value. Etienne's going to have value early in the season. Fourth, Etienne is a threat in the passing game, and he will get targets because fifth, Etienne's quarterback was Trevor Lawrence in college.
Mm-hmm.
So that rapport is already built in.
It definitely is.
All right. My other breakout that I had listed is DeAndre Swift with the Detroit Lions. I think this year he's got the potential to exceed 1,000 yards on the ground, and what makes him RB1 material is his ability to catch passes and have that role in the passing game. Through the first 2 years, he has been averaging over 5 targets per game, and I don't expect that involvement to change. The offensive line should be healthy and improved. The Lions have added some talent at the skill positions. The only thing stopping Swift from his breakout season is his health. That's it.
So I have a question. I'm going to loop this in with the rookies because I'm going to phrase this more of a question. So what do you think happens more so than not for Houston? Does Marlon Mack have a breakout season? Or does Damien Pierce become a rookie that shines?
Damien Pierce was on my list of rookies to talk about. We couldn't pass up that smooth transition, so
right, well, I
put him on the back burner. But we're bringing it back, so I can talk about him. Outside of Breece Hall, I think you think it's James Cook, but I think the rookie running back who has the easiest path to targets and playing time is Damien Pierce with the Texans.
I actually do agree with this. I didn't realize what was ahead of him, and it's not even good.
Technically, he's further down the depth chart, right? He's probably RB3 to start the season.
Yes.
But your RB1 is going to be Marlon Mack. Your RB2 is going to be Rex Burkhead.
No, sir.
Pierce has the potential to be RB1 with solid play this preseason during training camp. I mean, the downside for Pierce is that it's going to be the Texans' offense. That's going to be the downside.
Offense could be better than we think.
But
so
exactly,
I'm not knocking it till I see it.
Because last year's Texans team showed us that they can be competitive, and while they may be trailing some games and throwing a little bit more, Pierce has a path to solid playing time. He just has to put up a good training camp. He has to show well in the preseason.
So I've got one more breakout, and I get it. It's me dying on my own hill here. But there's a bunch of running backs that went down to Miami, and one of them I still believe in.
Which one? There's a lot of them.
I know, but I bet you know his name.
Hold on. Sony Michel.
Sony Michel. Out of all the running backs, yes, I know Raheem Moister, he's super fast, but he's always super injured. Sony Michel proved last year when he got his opportunities in LA that he still has that talent. He can still run. He can still do everything you need him to do to be a solid running back in this league. Eventually, and I get it, Mike McDaniels is just, throwing darts at the wall. I think eventually out of this bag of running backs, Sony Michel is going to be the one to emerge. Now, no, you can't necessarily trust it completely because they will have a staple of running backs, but I think Sony Michel will eventually rise to the top of that staple.
So we're just completely going out of order compared to previous weeks, but we're going to do a transition to buyer beware running backs.
And you're going to say Sony Michel?
Because talking about Miami backfield as a whole
Yeah.
puts them in the buyer beware category. They brought in Chase Edmonds. They brought in Raheem Mostert. They brought in Sony Michel, all while still having Myles Gaskin on the roster. Early talk sounds like Chase Edmonds
is not that good. Stop trying to pound the Myles Gaskin table.
But he's still there. That's the funny thing of it all.
And
he's
he may not be
there.
after training camp.
But it sounds like Chase Edmonds will have a slight edge early on.
Yeah, he was the first one signed.
Exactly. But Mike McDaniel learns many years from Kyle Shanahan. And what's Kyle Shanahan do? If one running back doesn't stand out immediately, change it. It's almost like Bill Belichick, almost.
But you see what I mean? I think Sony Michel will be one of those that shines out. I just,
See, I
just think he will.
know. I don't know because...
Unless he gets injured. I think he will. But moving on,
I don't have as much confidence.
I know, because I'm dying on my hill. Another buyers beware. Anybody for the Las Vegas Raiders, do not trust them. Do not trust them. I don't care who's running the ball for them. Do not trust it. And I'm also going to say another one to not trust. Do not trust David Montgomery. He has absolute dog crap booty in front of him. I will be surprised if he is not hitting the backfield 70% of the time.
So we're not taking David Montgomery at the 3-4 turn?
No, we're not. Bet not. I will take Travis Etienne.
Speaking of people to not trust, Miles Sanders with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh, what's that?
He told us himself, do not draft me in fantasy football. Now, should we see a positive touchdown regression this season from him? Yes, but he understands his role in the offense. He knows that Boston Scott's going to take some of the goal line work. He knows that Kenneth Gainwell is going to take the receptions and targets. He knows that Jalen Hurts is going to end up with his share of carries. And while I expect the passing volume to improve and their efficiency to increase, it just seems like a pure committee approach in Philadelphia, and Miles Sanders knows where he's at.
I got a bold one.
He warned us all.
I got a bold one.
Who's your bold one? Who do you got?
I say buyers beware Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Oh, he's not even on my radar.
Ooh. Hey, a lot of people are talking about him. I'm hearing a lot of talk about him. This is the first offseason he's ever had healthy. He's coming in. He's going to have an extended look because, those touches for Tyreek Hill have to go somewhere. They may run the ball more. Well, they also signed Ronald Jones Jr., who showed, in my opinion, more flashes in Tampa than Clyde Edwards-Helaire has shown since his first game.
I think the playoffs, for me, the playoffs are saying Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon. How many targets did he command during the playoffs last year? He had very large involvement in that offense, especially in the passing game. I'm not worried about Ronald Jones if I'm Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm worried about Jerick McKinnon.
He should worry about all of them.
Yes.
Because no, I'm just saying, Ronald Jones Jr. showed burst. It's just, I get it. Everybody tried to initially compare Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Brian Westbrook. He's not. They brought in Ronald Jones Jr. for a reason. And it's because you wasn't getting it done, son. You got anybody else? Or I'm willing to move on to the bounce backs to end on a positive note.
I got one more for buyer beware. And it's going to be James Robinson. So we just talked about Travis Etienne as the breakouts.
Yeah.
James Robinson only makes sense that he's the buyer beware coming off the Achilles injury. He's recovering with superhuman speed like Cam Akers did last season. And
at the same time, his athleticism already was less than Etienne. Who knows what the injury has done to him?
Yep. And Doug Peterson likes to use a running back committee approach, so
but he also likes speed.
Yes. Yes, we do. All right, let's end positively with our bounce backs. Who do you got?
My first bounce back that I'm going with is Christian McCaffrey.
My man. There we go. Good way to start.
I think with Baker there, I don't care if Sam Darnold's not is good with Baker. You better be good with Baker because you're going to be backing him up. I just think Baker is a quarterback that's better suited for McCaffrey. He's more accurate. He'll actually look for him. He won't just take off the run. And I think hopefully I've got my fingers crossed for McCaffrey having a cleaner game going on so he doesn't get as injured.
All right. I also had McCaffrey on my bounce back list, and even before the Carolina Panthers trade for Baker Mayfield, my RB1 was Christian McCaffrey for this season. PPR leagues, Christian McCaffrey.
Got one more bounce back.
All right. So Christian McCaffrey has missed some time recently, but when you're looking at all the injuries, is there anything that the previous injuries have in common?
No.
Are there repeats? Are they the same?
No.
Was it a case of bad luck?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think it's bad luck. I don't think that there's a lot of high re-injury risk with any of his previous injuries, but when he's on the field, he is going to command a high volume of touches. Running game, passing game, and the Panthers are looking a little bit better this season. And now they got Baker Mayfield. So Christian McCaffrey definitely on my bounce back list. If you got one more, then I got one or two.
I've got one more.
All right. So one that you want to go?
No, go ahead.
All right. This one might surprise you. You're probably not going to like it. My bounce back is Cam Akers with Los Angeles Rams.
Why would I not like it? I have very much so a weary feeling about him. I hope he does bounce back for your sake, because I know you have him as a keeper in a specific league.
Sure do.
But in truth be told, he has not proven to me he can stay on the field.
Okay. All right. So my notes are, there was a lot of optimism when Cam Akers returns to make that Super Bowl run at the Rams. What wasn't impressive was the 172 yards on 67 postseason carries. So let me do the math for you. 2.56 yards per carry.
They forced the ball to him, though.
0 touchdowns. Only rushed for a total of 6 first downs. Was he rushed back too soon?
Hold on.
Probably.
Check something out, though.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna go ahead and talk about it.
All right. But what Cam Akers has working in his favor, or even had at that point, was Sean McVay didn't think too highly of Darrell Henderson or Sony Michel. I mean, even before drafting Kyron Williams, who's more of a threat to Henderson than anybody, they were just feeding the ball to Akers in the postseason.
Which is weird to me.
Which means that Sean McVay wants Cam Akers to be his bell cow running back, similar to how we used Todd Gurley years ago. Now, a full off season allowing for additional recovery time, getting his legs underneath him.
He is not
will help
Todd
him
Gurley.
Look better. Well, he's not Todd Gurley, but he's going to get that Todd Gurley workload, because they're talking about him getting more involved in the passing game.
Todd Gurley to make the workload work out.
But he's going to be a 3-down running back. He's going to get the early carries. They're going to involve him in the passing game. And remember when I was back-to-back champion in your league? Who did I draft in the first round each year?
Todd Gurley. But again, Cam Akers is not Todd Gurley. Stop it. All right. My other one is a bit of a homer. No, it's a major homer.
Of bits.
It's Zeke Elliott, and I know we've heard this rant before, but he does look good. I've seen the videos. He's healthier. That's the thing. People forget Zeke was actually having a decent season, and then he got hurt, and the Cowboys still ran him for whatever reason. So this particular year, if he can stay healthy, I actually think you're going to have a better year for Zeke. The offensive line is going to be better and nastier and going to open up more holes. And I think Zeke has the opportunity to have a very nice year, even splitting carries with Pollard.
Tony Pollard. All right. I have one more bounce back. And it's funny because by talking about this bounce back, we will have talked about all the running backs in the NFC East. Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
Yep. So far, especially last year, it was just a perfect storm for disaster. The Giants organization has been a mess for a few years, but the regime leading that circus is no longer in town.
Still the same players.
Same players. There were rumors early in the offseason that the Giants were trying to trade Saquon Barkley, but
understandable.
Nothing came to fruition. And let's be real, there wasn't much of a value there. There wasn't much of a market.
Trade a running back these days.
It's hard. Barkley's 2020 was cut short due to a torn ACL, and saying 2021 was a down season would be a little bit of an understatement. But when he's healthy, Barkley can be dynamic. He can be a game-changing running back. Even if the Giants go into pass-heavy offense mode, Barkley is in a command upward of 100 targets a year. The offensive line should be improved. A lot of this will depend on Daniel Jones.
See, the thing is, I don't necessarily. I've seen enough Barkley, and I remember I used to, back when I used to listen to pods, I remember I had a pod that I listened to that had a criticism of Barkley. And I've seen that criticism come to fruition in the NFL. It's literally Saquon Barkley is going to average you, let's say, 15 rushes, averaging about 2.5 yards per carry. And then he's going to have 2 to 3 rushes in a game that's going to average you about 30 yards.
Yep.
It's the weirdest running style you've ever seen. It's just like goes down, breaks it open into the open field, in the backfield. Like it's just like what is? He's just that guy. So it's just like fantasy purposes, I can get with you. Real life, I would not want to run her like Sam Barkley. I'm being honest with you. I need a guy who's going to go forward.
All right, and that's all I had for my breakouts. It was Saquon Barkley was my last one.
All right. Words of wisdom, my good man.
Yes, it is training camp. You're going to hear coaches, you're going to hear beat reporters, you're going to hear everybody talking about how well this player is doing. They're going to be talking him up. Don't believe it all. Take the information with a grain of salt. It's similar to the bad news. Remember last year when Jamar Chase couldn't catch a football? Yeah, don't believe that Trey Lance has arm fatigue either. Don't be concerned with the PUP list here in the preseason because the preseason PUP list is different from the regular season one. They can be taken off at
Dak's
time.
Arm was like, remember Dak was supposed to be out for like the first 4 games because he hurt his arm, and we had all these doctors coming out and saying, well, this is what the injury's like, and he won't be able to throw.
Take it all with a grain of salt, folks.
All right, I already gave my words of wisdom for the week. You guys have to watch the other episode. Just saying.